Check the mic and make sure it sound right, boys.
Alright, doing a brake job on a 2017 Ford Focus ST. Start by compressing the piston on the caliper like you see with the pry bar there. Now I'll focus on this front clip. These clips can go flying across the room, so you gotta be real careful. On the back side of the caliper, you'll find two plastic caps that cover up 7mm Allen head slide pins. I'm going to go ahead and use an air ratchet here. If this is your first time doing a Focus brake job, I'd suggest using a regular hand ratchet. Slide pins are a little finicky. You could strip them out. And even worse, you could strip out the steering knuckle if you're not careful. Anytime you do a brake job, you want to make sure that you secure the caliper somewhere up and out of the way. You don't want to let it dangle from the hose. Doing so could actually damage the hydraulic hose. Now these two fasteners securing the caliper bracket in place to the steering knuckle are 18mm. A little tough coming out because both of them have a red thread locker on them. The impact will make easy work out of that. Once the bracket's removed, we'll set it off to the side. Then we'll take a look at this brake rotor. Usually they're rusted in place. This one comes right off. Speaking of rust, if you haven't subscribed already to Rusty Dusty's Auto Repair, go ahead and do so. It's a good practice to clean up the wheel bearing before mounting the new rotor. Rust buildup in thousandths of an inch can cause brake issues down the road. Some of these newer vehicles have some pretty tight tolerances. Next up, we'll take a look at our old brake pads. Now would be a good time to examine the old brake pads for any sort of odd wear. These pads, well, they were in great shape to be honest. However, there was an issue with the rotors. The vehicle only has 30,000 miles on it. It's kind of sad that we're already doing the brake job. On the inboard pad, there's a clip that pushes inside of the piston bore. Pop that clip out and carefully remove that pad. Next, we'll clean off our brake rotor. These rotors come shipped with oil coatings. The oil is to protect the rotor so that it doesn't rust during shipment. Notice I installed the rotor backwards so that I could wipe the back side of the rotor. If I installed it correctly the first time, I wouldn't be able to wipe that rotor because of this dust plate that you see here. So now I'll go ahead and install the rotor the correct way and then clean the front surface. Neat little tricks: if you take the old lug nut, spin it on, you can secure that rotor in place while you work on the brake system. Next, we'll take a look at the caliper bracket. A good technician takes the time to clean the caliper bracket so that the pads move freely back and forth in the bracket. If the rust is minimal, like you see here, you can get away with using a wire brush. Again, this vehicle had approximately 30,000 miles on it and is really only 2 years old. For more severe applications, you may want to use a 3M disc like you see here. This disc is a medium grit and it's attached to a right angle die grinder. The goal of the die grinder is just to remove this outer layer of rust. If you're not careful, you could remove material from the bracket. quite possibly the best method for cleaning up a caliper bracket such as this would be to toss it into a sandblasting cabinet. If you have a sandblaster, it makes really quick work of this project. I'll finish cleaning up this bracket and we'll continue on with our brake job. Next, we'll install our caliper bracket.
To being tight, I'll actually come in here with a torque wrench. Boom, boom.
Once the caliper mounting bolts are torqued to spec, go ahead and install the outside pad. Remember, this outside pad is called the outboard pad. I attached both hardware clips to the pad, which is unique to this system. Most systems, the hardware clips attach to the bracket itself. In the caliper, I've preloaded the back pad, or the inboard pad, and now I fit it over top of the rotor. Once the caliper's in place, we can reinstall our slide pins and torque them down to factory specification. You'll see that here in just a second. Once the caliper is torqued down to specification, then we can install this outside clip. There's a few tricks to getting this clip on. I like to get 3 contact points in place first and then pop the 4th on like you see here. Once that clip's in place, the job is just about done. Alright, there it is. It's all done. Here you see all the new components, our new brake pads, our new brake rotor, as well as a new hardware clip. We even have new hardware on our brake pads. Don't forget to torque the wheel down to 100 foot-pounds.